Begone, Satan, Vattene Satana, title of a book in Italian. In Italy, the bishops take quite seriously the ministry of exorcism, and they do appoint exorcists. Indeed, we had to discuss this with our own Archbishop one day, and he warned us, you have to be formed and trained. If you get into it, be warned, you won't get out of it again. That's probably why in Ireland bishops are hesitant, because they have to sacrifice and practice a priest. But that means that in Ireland there's very little defence against that invisible sphere of activity. And Ireland needs it badly. When the Lord went into the desert, he was not encountering mere mental, phantasmal things coming out of the depths of subconscious. He was handling a real being. And those temptations which are listed, which are only a part of what he had to undergo, are still there. Ambition is one. How many people have sacrificed eternity for ambition? The senses are another. And on that, I'd like to dwell for a moment. The devil will use what will work. And right now, in our time, he has found a great ally. There is very little in the way of censorship and protection right now, compared with only 50 or 60 years ago. And moreover, it is more immediate and close in proximity than it had been way back. I'll be specific. Even the pious and the holy can be solicited unexpectedly by the senses, titillated and provoked against their wish. Right now, the devil has succeeded in infesting the cybersphere and all that makes it available in a way that is quite satanic and horrifying. For even the young can be taken in demons at the flick of a hand. The young can be engaging with demons in the dark hours of the night, the favourite time of the demons. And once they are caught with psychological addiction of this kind, they are hooked. And they'll be hooked forever. There is even child addiction to internet pornography. A child is an angel from heaven, and the devil wants to break that barrier down by getting to its innocence as soon as possible. Now, it's kind of important, my friends, because not one of us here is exempt from this risk. Because we can't play with the demons. If we think we can, we're eluding ourselves. The devil has the angelic mind that he had before the fall, and he has means at his disposal. It's not new. The Desert Fathers went to the desert to fight the demons, and they met them. But now, it's so subtle that we're not aware of what's happening. Moreover, very few of us, if we're honest, have, in the course of the 24 hours, anything resembling the desert. Total solitude, real silence, interior and exterior. A lot of us are carrying the agitation of something that they're up to on the screen with them into any moments of prayer that they might have. And by the way, the cybersphere has a means of absorbing a great chunk of our existence on earth, if we let it. It is subtle. But Lent is a time to see where our time is actually going and put the brakes on and make a solemn and clear decision before Almighty God that God is going to have all rights, all control over my time and therefore my will. And that, my friends, is concrete. It means having the willpower not to start, because that's the problem. Once one is there for a long time. And once the devil has got us there, even though we start for a good motive, he is very clever. And he will get us, yes, into contact with hell through things that we're not aware of initially. But they get into the mind, and they're there, wreaking havoc. Even live television is not safe. I mean passive watching. Just placing oneself without a selected program and letting it happen. That is a recipe for disaster. For out of there will come what we have not foreseen, and now it is stacked against us. One cannot be in the presence of God and allow Satan to reign over us with obscenity, foul language, blasphemy, impurity, and also messages against Christianity. We have to be coherent. And the Lord can't get through to us if we expose ourselves in such a way that we don't feel any more the pain of his heart when we do so. Lent without television, without YouTube, without anything but a book, without distraction of unnecessary evenings out, without anything at all which has not been filtered and controlled, is totally different. And we can, yes, enter the desert. But very few this Lent, even among the pious, will risk that experience. We have means. Do you know that in recent times an examination was made on the structure, yes, of holy water? It was in the Eastern Church. There, surprisingly, under great magnification and amplification, they found something quite unexpected. The molecular structure of the exorcised and blessed water was totally different from that of unblessed water. It had gone into harmonious order and a pattern which was clearly supernatural, whereas that of unblessed water was just random chaos. The saints were aware of the power of sacramentals. Exorcists are as well. Teresa of Avila has a teaching about its power, and she knew what it meant. The devils themselves have been obliged to admit certain things. One is, I think it was in the Holy House of Loreto when a spectacular exorcism took place and the devil was commanded to speak in clear Italian, and he did, and it was recorded by a cell phone, and it's correct Italian. And he had to admit certain things against his wish. One I would leave with you, because it's worth claiming. He said he didn't have permission to enter the family where the rosary was prayed. And I think he was referring to the rosary prayed together. Together we stand. And the devil knows it, for by nature he's the divider, the diabolos, he divides. And he, by the way, is in total isolation. All the devils, they're not in communion with each other. They hate each other too, and they're in total isolation and their damnation. They had to admit it in another exorcism. I discovered that in Rome. I think it was in Rome it happened. The devil was there, lots of them, and creating havoc. And the exorcist commanded them with great energy, all together, to depart and to go to the place created for them. And they sniggered and howled and said to him, as though he was an idiot, "We're never together." By that they meant they were in total isolation, and so is every damned soul. And so is every soul in a state of mortal sin. He cannot have true fellowship and communion, which is a privilege of those in the state of grace. But they added this: God had not created it. They had. They had no option once they had rebelled. They couldn't go towards God. It would mean going towards a furnace. They had to go as far as possible. And that was the result. Now, do you imagine that a person who in this world has taken the bait, has sacrificed his life for the delights of impurity or whatever it might be, ambition and glory, all that works to get that soul, is going to be happy on the other side if he's got it through these means? He will be with the one that he has served. It will be bad company. Bad company forever. Imagine. One moment afterwards. This, my friend, is what we should be thinking about in Lent. Am I ready? Just yesterday, I was shocked. A very close benefactress, by now in her 90s, actually 94, didn't wake up yesterday morning. I went immediately and found there was great sorrow, but also a certain joy, because she always lived for Jesus and ready to meet him she was. That's the way to live. One can only die safely if one lives safely. And Lent means precisely ready to return to the ashes from which we came.